This time I want to talk about something that I think one way or another comes to our dinner tables and our discussions, whether we want it or not. This is something about uncertainties. Now, if you think about even a year ago, we were in the world in a very different type of the situation than we are now. Suddenly became a big change. There came an intervention that changed the system as it was into something really new, and now we see a lot of consequences. And of course I'm talking about the Putin's attack on Ukraine, but I want to look at it from this type of the events from the perspective of that it creates more uncertainty as towards what is to come next. You can also go back a little bit more in time and see how COVID-19 virus came, kind of flashed out of the sky in the early 2020 and had a dramatic effect on our societies, and we're still not out of that. But that changed almost everything. These type of events, when they happen, they really not only changes ourselves and our conditions, but they do give also as a perspective. And we are living in this very interconnected world where one thing affects dramatically the other. The virus that somehow got out of the box, so to say, in Wuhan, China, in no more than 2-3 months, it was all over the place. It was because we are moving much more, because there is a much more connectivity, and because the virus was so fast that before we realized what's going on, it was already everywhere. This describes a little bit what is the age of uncertainty in which we are in right now. But this uncertainty has also the other side. And this is that first we have to acknowledge that, of course, there have always been changes. There is no 20-year time period in the world history, at least in the modern history of the world, where things have been just moving pretty much the same. There are always changes that are happening, and we have to accustom to that. But the difference is that those changes, how do we actually manage them, and are they something that affect almost like everyone in this world? When Iraq invaded Kuwait in the early 90s, what happened was that very fast, not only United States, but Soviet Union / Russia, many others woken up to this, and within very short period of time, this whole episode was sort of brought to an end, meaning that Iraqis had to recede from Kuwait. That was the token of that if something happens, a change happens, then you are able to deal with that change. In our age, the problem with the uncertainty is that it is there because there are so many different actors in this system. So if you look at the current crisis, how the European Union is reacting to the crisis, that is very different to how China is doing that, how India, Brazil, United States, and so forth. And when there is not so much of the concerted action, but that action and reaction happens in a very different way in the different locations, then it also bears the possibility that it can be escalating, and that it in itself creates more uncertainties. Because we human beings, we really love to live in a rather comfortable environment where things are quite predictable. We don't like so much of the dramatic changes unless you feel that you are an adventurer, and not many of us are adventurers. So we like to live pretty much our normal life. But if there are factors outside ourselves that has a dramatically strong impact on us without us being able to do anything about it, then we start to feel that there are these fundamental uncertainties. Of course, one uncertainty is what is going to happen with our climate, that we have been now essentially destroying in terms of its gaseous composition, and thereby launching very new uncertainties regarding to what is going to happen with my harvest if I'm a farmer in Pakistan, or how is my fishery doing in the west coast of Finland, what type of the weather will be here in the future, or something else that dramatically are charging the way and challenging the way that we are leading our lives. So the age of the fundamental challenges and radical uncertainties are those when we are really not at all secure what is happening tomorrow. And so what we need to be doing in this world is that we need to start to deal with this radical uncertainty and even be happy about it, because we have no option. We cannot go to the times or more simple times. We cannot revert ourselves back into those times. So the future is the only way to go forward. We just have to learn to be much more relaxed with these huge uncertainties. That seems to be the only way. The other way, of course, is to prepare for them. One way to prepare for them is to think about that, what are those emanating risks for us in this new environment? And it is pretty obvious that we are talking about the risks that were not in the focus of our risk perception 5 years ago, but they are now there. Whether it's about the climate change, whether it's about another shot of deglobalization caused by another virus, or whether it's about the issue of how that suddenly our constellation of geopolitics has been changed, as in the case of Russian invasion to Ukraine. So in all of these cases, the situation suddenly changes, and we have to learn to live with those and be early enough seeing those possible consequences. Because the problem that we often have is that, well, we can register something is happening, but for us to stretch about the possible consequences, that we don't often bother to do, and that's why it is sort of left aside. But all in all, I think that even if we are living these fundamental uncertainties, we are also living in times of possibilities that were not just simply there 5 to 10 years ago. And that is because we have the new technologies. We are moving, and I would say realizing that we need to act for the common good. And if we have that coalition, then we can really do something about for our future. Because as I said, the future is in our hands, and we just need to recognize that. And even under the worst uncertainties, try to live our best of our lives and be positive, even if today something can completely change. But we don't know, and we cannot be too fearful about the future. But really think that the future is our friend rather than foe. How do you feel and experience this uncertainty of our times? And what is your response to that? Let me know. Subscribe to my channel and learn more about the future by looking at some other videos on that.